Bellator 275, Mousasi versus Van de Voort, full card prediction. We got Gegard Mousasi, one of the greatest middleweights of all time, and I am not exaggerating, and we have an undefeated prospect in Austin Van de Voort. Co-main event is Sinead, Kavanagh, Leah, McCourt. Originally, it was Peter Queally and Kani Musa. I'm not too sure what happened there. We got Ciaran, Clarke, Abou, Tounkara, Jose Sanchez, Khasan, Magomedsharipov, Zabit's brother, Brian Moore, Jornel, Lugo, Khurshed, Kakhorov, and Brett Johns, Charlie Leary, and Davy Gallen, Stephanie Page, and Danny McCormack, Junior Morgan and Darragh Kelly, Vladimir Tokov and Daniele Scatizzi, Cyril Sidelnikov and Gokhan Saricam, Nathan Kelly and Scott Pederson, and Lee Hammond and Jamie. Hey, it's gonna be a good card. We have a lot of guys from SBG Ireland. You see a lot of those Ireland flags throughout the card. Not all of the fighters that are from SBG are necessarily from Ireland, like Daniele Scatizzi and Khurshed Kakhorov as well. But it'll overall be a pretty good card. I cannot wait to see all of these fights, because Charlie Leary, Davy Gallen is a banger. We have so many really good fights in the card, but yeah, we're gonna go into the first fight here in the Bellator lightweight division. Lee Hammond and Jamie Hay in the lightweight division. Jamie Hay does look very solid, 2 wins and 0 losses, but he is 36 years old, so that alone leads me to believe Bellator is probably trying to get Lee Hammond a good win over a guy that has an undefeated record like Jamie Hay. Bellator knows exactly what they're doing, getting an older guy with a perfect undefeated record, going against, I'm assuming, a 21-year-old fighter from SBG Ireland, undefeated, 1-0 as a pro, and then 15-5 as an amateur. That is a very, very solid record, only losing to a very solid 7-2 Omar Skab Yusupov by a very close split decision, and a 13-0 Antonio Marti, an 9-3 for Dan Ospanov, and then so many other very solid fighters. The amateur career, he showed amazing grappling with a lot of those wins, 11 of them coming by a submission. As a pro, his only win was a knockout. So even though you might see him as being more of a grappler, wrestler, going out there looking for the submission, the TKO, due to ground upon, he has the striking as well, as we saw in his last fight over a 4-0 undefeated Iono Dobrostik in his last fight. But Jamie Hay is not really fighting the best competition. He got a win over a 0-6 and then a 0-8 opponent. So it's obvious his record's a little bit padded. And he's fighting Lee Hammond, who I just think is better all around. Striking is better, grappling is better, wrestling is better. I know Bellator is doing exactly what I know they're doing, is they're trying to get Lee Hammond another good win, build the record of a guy from SBG Ireland on this European fight card, Bellator 275. So, of course, my prediction is Lee Hammond. From the film that I've watched, he's better everywhere. Striking, wrestling, grappling, jiu-jitsu, clinch game, literally everywhere you look at it, Lee Hammond has the advantage. There might be a possibility that Jamie Hay can knock him out, get a submission or something like that, but he hasn't fought in 2 years. He's fighting a youngster who just fought 3 months ago, showed amazing striking. Should be a very self-explanatory prediction. Lee Hammond by finish in the first or second round. Scott Pederson and Nathan Kelly in the featherweight division. Another guy from SBG Ireland on Bellator 275. I told you there are a lot of them on this card. 25 years old and 24 years old. Not the best record from either guy. They both have the same height. I'm not too sure about the reach, but 3 wins and 2 losses. Those 2 losses were 4.5 years ago by knockout, and then 3.5 years ago by a decision. He has since improved his craft, got better in the wrestling, got better in the striking, got better everywhere, because it is 3.5 years. But he got very, very solid wins, submission win, a knockout win 6 months ago, and then he got another knockout win over an undefeated 6-0 guy that I honestly think is a pretty solid opponent there. Scott Pederson also losing to some very solid guys like Nick Bagley, and then Matthew Elliott as well, getting a submission win. But where these fighters need the fight to stay, Nathan Kelly from SPG Ireland, training with guys like Conor McGregor. I'm forgetting a lot of the guys that are there. But usually, like, if you're training with a guy like Conor McGregor, you're going to have some pretty good striking, and that does seem to be the case for Nathan Kelly, as he's a pretty solid striker. He's got a lot of knockout wins on his amateur and professional MMA career, looking to do that exact same thing here against Scott Pederson. But Scott, not looking to strike. There's no way Scott is going out there saying, I'm fighting a guy from Conor McGregor's camp, his team, I'm going to strike with him. That is not what Scott Pederson is saying. Scott is going out there with the game plan to take Nathan Kelly down, submit him, or ground pound TKO him. Do I think that's going to happen? No, I don't. But do I think there's a good shot? Yes, I do. Nathan Kelly is not necessarily the best grappler, the best wrestler. All it really takes is Scott to dig deep, dig hard, and land those takedowns and control Nathan Kelly. So I think Scott Pederson is definitely a live dog here. Of course, my prediction is going to be Nathan Kelly. He's the better striker. He's got decent takedown defense. But you never know with a guy like Scott Pederson on a losing streak right here, 1-2 with a losing record. He's going to come in here trying to get back to that 50-50 record of 2-2, and he's going to put his life on the line going for that submission and trying to be the undefeated in his last 3 fights, not as the fights before that, but he's trying to go out there and submit Nathan Kelly. So that does make Scott Pederson a very dangerous fight for Nathan Kelly. But overall, Nathan's the better guy in terms of striking, so I'm going to go Nathan Kelly by a decision here. Solid fight there in the featherweight division. Kirill, Sidelnikov, and Gokhan, Saricam in the heavyweight division. I'm going to say it right now, Gokhan, he's going to knock out Kirill. He's about, 4 inches taller right there, and he's going to have a 2-inch reach. The striking advantage 1000% goes Gokhan. He's taller, he's lengthier, he's more powerful, he's faster, he's got really good pressure. I mean, everything due to the striking, Gokhan Saricam is just an absolute beast. And even with the wrestling and grappling, yeah, he did get submitted by Steve Mowry as his only professional MMA loss. I don't really care. I mean, Steve Mowry is an amazing wrestler and grappler. Another undefeated guy here in Bellator with a 10-0 undefeated record. That is not a bad loss whatsoever. Losing to a guy like Steve Mowry, that is not bad at all. I don't think a guy like Kirill Sidelnikov is going to do what Steve Mowry was able to do, take him down, get the submission. This one is going to be a striking fight, and the fact that Kirill Sidelnikov has been knocked out in all but one of his professional MMA fights, which was back in 2008, absolutely insane. He's been knocked out in every other one, so I do think the fight is going to be a knockout. Gokhan Saricam with the power, with that speed, is going to knock out Kirill in the first or second round. Daniel Scatizzi and Vladimir Tokov in the lightweight division. Vladimir Tokov, it's tough to say if he's going to have this striking advantage. He hasn't fought in quite a while. It's been a year and a half. Before that, it was 2.5 years. Before that, it was almost 3 years. Before that, it was almost 5 years. So we got a guy that's really not too active in Vladimir Tokov, only really fighting once a year. And then you got Daniel Scatizzi, who's fighting a little bit more, but still not that active. Only fighting about 1.2, 1.3 times per year. So neither guy is really the most active in terms of getting their fights in Bellator and outside of Bellator, but it's very hard to judge those type of guys, because if both guys in Vladimir and Daniel have not fought recently, but Vladimir hasn't fought in a year and 5 months, Daniel has fought a little bit earlier, about 3 months ago. Before that, it was a year and 4 months. We have a little bit more to go on for Daniel Scatizzi. We watched that last fight over a pretty solid opponent in Brian Hoy, and he looked very solid. His striking looked pretty good, not really very technical, but he's got good movement, pretty unorthodox striking, and he looked pretty good in that fight. Also looked very good in the Gavin Hughes fight, submitting him in the very first round, only losing to pretty solid guys. Jarrah Hussein Al-Salawi, who's fighting in the PFL, Charlie Leary, who's also on the card, Alfie Davis, very good striker, Marvin Vettori, title challenger for the UFC, losing a very legit guys. But I don't know, it's very tough for this type of fight, because Daniel could mix in that unorthodox striking and find a way to use that unorthodox striking to defend the punches of Vladimir and win a close decision. He could break the fight to the ground and submit Vladimir Tokov. Do I think that's going to happen? No. I am ultimately going to go Tokov to win the fight by decision. I believe he does have the better striker, more power, more speed. It's just Daniel, it only takes one takedown, and he could grab on to a submission at any time in the fight. So Daniel Scatizzi, definitely a live dog here, but I'm going to go Vladimir Tokov by decision, probably 29-28. Daniel, with this unorthodox style, with the takedowns mixed in, should be enough to win at least one of those rounds. That's why I do believe it to be a pretty close fight there in the lightweight division, but I got Vladimir Tokov by a decision. Junior Morgan and Darragh Kelly in the lightweight division. I'm going to say it right now, it doesn't really matter. About the undefeated record of Junior Morgan, you might look at the record, see 0-0 and 3-0, see Junior Morgan go out there, get a knockout win, a submission win, and then an illegal knee win right there. You might be like, oh my god, he's definitely going to beat Darragh Kelly, but you have not seen Darragh Kelly's amateur career. The man is amazing everywhere you look at the fight. His grappling is very, very good, going out there, getting many, many guillotines and rear nakeds in his amateur career, and then the striking is good as well. He showed that in a few of his fights. More of a grappler and wrestler in my opinion than a striker, but his striking is also very, very good. Only 23 years old, from SBG Ireland, you already know. Bellator is trying to push Darragh Kelly, build the record against an undefeated guy who doesn't really have the best wins. Yeah, he's 3-0, but still, look at that, 1-5, 0-4, and 0-2. They're trying to build this man. They're trying to build Darragh Kelly, who honestly is better in the striking, better in the grappling, better in the wrestling. He's better everywhere, so I already know what's gonna happen here. Darragh Kelly inside the distance by a finish. Solid fight there in the lightweight division. Danny McCormack and Stephanie Page in the women's strawweight division. Kind of butchered the name right there, but Stephanie Page is gonna be a pretty solid striker. She hasn't really been able to show it too much in her last two fights. They were pretty close fights with Irina Alekseeva as well as Florhani, but the main weakness of Stephanie Page, she's just a striker. She does not have really the wrestling or grappling to fall back on if her opponent's a wrestler. So if the fight comes out there, she'll strike for a little bit, land some pretty good kicks and punches, but as soon as that opponent gets a takedown on her, she doesn't really have the best get-up game. She tends to just get ground-pounded and controlled on the ground for a little bit. Yeah, her striking is very, very good, but when she's facing a solid wrestler and grappler, she doesn't really know too much of what to do there, and Danny McCormack, being the much better wrestler, much better grappler, is definitely going to have the advantage on the ground. I'm not going to say Danny's going to win on the striking, because of course Stephanie is going to be the better striker. Danny's going to eat a few shots, because she's just not that good of a striker, to be quite honest, but she's tough. She will keep on fighting, coming forward until she gets that takedown. Eventually, she will get the takedown, in my opinion. She is 5-0, undefeated, again, from SBG Ireland, like a lot of fighters on the card. Undefeated inside of Bellator with a 4-0 record, one win outside of Bellator, but a lot of finishes on the ground, rear nakeds and TKO wins. I don't think we're going to see a finish here. Stephanie isn't really the best grappler or wrestler, but she's good enough not to get finished. So I do think the fight goes all the way. Danny McCormack, being the better wrestler and grappler, winning the fight by a decision there in the women's strawweight division. Charlie Leary and Davy Callan in the lightweight division. Now, before I get into the prediction, let's just give a round of applause. Oh my god, banger of a fight here. Charlie Leary, he makes his fights very, very good every single time he goes out there. And then we got another opponent here in Davy Callan, who went out there in his Bellator debut and beat Kane Musa by a unanimous decision. Kane is about to get a fight against number 6 Peter Queally on this card. Was supposed to be in the co-main event, and Davy Callan went out there and beat him by unanimous decision. Crazy. Before that, getting the rolling thunder kick on Ross Pearson, a UFC veteran. I mean, the man is absolutely insane. Both guys here put on crazy, crazy fights every time they go out there. They're both known for a lot of finishes. I don't really know too many of his fights that go all the way. I mean, a couple of them went all the way back in 2012, 2013, but if you look at all the recent fights since 2014, finish, decision, finish, and then a decision. Only 2 fights go into a decision, and then Charlie Leary, he's got a couple of decision wins here and there, but it doesn't really matter. I don't care if this fight goes to a decision. I don't care if we see a finish. It's going to be a banger of a fight. Both guys have very, very solid striking. The grappling and the wrestling, it's pretty decent, but it's going to be a striking fight. When you got guys like Davy Callan, who goes out there, puts on the pressure, and you got Charlie Leary, who goes out there and puts on the pressure. Both guys that have very solid power, are like, they just bleed in a lot of their fights as well. It's going to be a good one. I cannot wait for the fight, and The reason I can't really make a very, very clear prediction here, it's Charlie Leary, Davy Gallen. I have no idea who's going to win. Davy Gallen could go out there and use his youth and use his speed and overall win a very, very close decision. But Charlie could use his experience and just pressure Davy Gallen, use his gas tank advantage, the cardio advantage, and beat Davy Gallen in the later rounds. It's a very, very close fight. I have no idea who's going to win here. It's a 50-50 one. Definitely one. You're going to be eating the popcorn. Maybe do an underdog bet on Charlie Leary because it's a very, very close fight. Yeah, just sit back, eat your popcorn, maybe a dog bet. That's about it. But it's a very close one. I'm going to go Charlie Leary. I know Davy Gallen has been doing amazing, beating Khan Musa and so many other guys, but Charlie's a veteran. He's got solid cardio as well. I think that's the only thing that's really, that has an advantage for either guy. Their striking is very even, their grappling is very even, their speed, their power is pretty even, but Charlie's got the better cardio and has more fights, slightly more fights, not really by that much, but I'm going to go Charlie Leary ever so slightly by 29-28 split decision. Would not be surprised if Davy Gallen wins. But a banger of a fight in the lightweight division. Brett Johns and Khurshed Kakhorov in the bantamweight division. Khurshed Kakhorov with an 8-0 undefeated record from Tajikistan, only 30 years old, in the prime of his MMA career, but he hasn't really faced the best competition. 6-3, 8-6, 3-1, solid, 5-1, solid, 3-4, 0-1, 3-1, solid, and then 0-4. Not necessarily the best competition. He's faced a couple of decent guys there every now and then. A 10-2 Stipe Bursic, and then the fight with Patrick Krobach, and the fight with Jair Jr. as well. But he hasn't faced a guy with as much experience as Brett Johns. Brett Johns has done so much, and he's fought so many opponents in the UFC, in Bellator, and in Cage Warriors, I believe, as well. He's fought in so many other places. Titan FC, Cage Warriors, the UFC, now Bellator. He has a lot of experience. He's got very good grappling, very, very good wrestling. Only losing to Aljamain Sterling, the UFC champion, Pedro Munoz, a former top 10 bantamweight, and then Danny Sabatello, one of the best wrestlers in the Bellator bantamweight division as of right now. It'll be a good fight. I think Khurshed is a good striker. He's got good knees, good kicks, good power in his hands. But Brett Johns, come on, he's a way better wrestler, way better grappler. This should be a domination. Brett Johns by a unanimous decision. That seems to be the main consensus there. So I got Brett Johns winning that one by a unanimous decision. Solid fight in the bantamweight division. Brian Moore and Jornel Lugo in the bantamweight division. Undefeated prospects. Jornel Lugo, only 26 years of age, very tall, very lengthy, coming in at 5'9" inches tall, having a 1-inch height advantage and a 4-inch reach advantage. So that height and reach can definitely play an advantage and play a factor for Jornel Lugo in the striking. I don't necessarily think he's going to have the advantage when it comes to the boxing, the kickboxer, things like that, but I do believe with the height, with the reach, with the speed that he has with his punches and kicks, he'll be able to keep the striking relatively even, not let Brian Moore absolutely destroy him on the feet, because I still think that Brian Moore will be having the striking advantage. I don't think it's going to be that significant of an advantage. I do think there will be a significant advantage when it comes to, of course, the wrestling and grappling. Jornel Lugo, since joining Bellator, he's looked very, very good on the ground, going out there beating undefeated Skylar Suto by unanimous decision, Cass Bell by unanimous decision, and barely submitting Keith Lee with no seconds left. You can see right there, 5 minutes of the first round, absolutely insane. He's got a lot of other submission and knockout wins, but if he's going to win here against Brian Moore, it's probably going to be a decision. Brian Moore has been submitted in the past, but he did not get finished by guys like Nikita Mikhailov and then Noah Lahat inside of Bellator, so I don't necessarily think he's going to get finished, but he has before by AJ McKee Jr., Daniel Weichel, Murat Pekov, Dave Hill. He actually didn't get finished right there, but you can see where I'm coming at. He does get finished by submission a lot by AJ McKee and Daniel Weichel, but those guys are at the, I would say, upper echelon of this featherweight division. Top 5, the champion, and then a top 5 featherweight right there. So those guys submitting Brian Moore, that's not really too much of a surprise. I don't think Jornel Lugo is going to go out there and submit Brian Moore here, because he did only get that one submission win on Keith Lee, wasn't able to finish Cass Bell was not able to finish Skylar Suto. So overall, I do think the fight goes all the way. I think on the feet, Jornel Lugo uses the height, reach, and speed to keep the striking relatively even. Overall, get the fight to the mat eventually and control there for a decision win. I expect submission attempts. I expect a lot of ground and pound, and expect Jornel Lugo to be looking for that finish to catapult his name, and maybe even get a ranked opponent next time around. But at this point, Brian Moore is a pretty tough guy. Hasn't been finished in the last 3 years. I don't think we see a finish here. Jornel Lugo by unanimous decision in the bantamweight division. Khasan, Magomedsharipov, and Jose Sanchez in the featherweight division. Jose Sanchez has 11 wins and 1 loss. That record looks very, very solid, but once you take a little bit of a deeper dive into it, he is coming off a submission loss on Felipe Maia, who is a much worse wrestler and grappler than Khasan Magomedsharipov. So that one thing right there does lead me to believe, yeah, Khasan's probably going to go out there and win this fight. He also has a lot of his wins against not the best competition. 8 wins and 10 losses, 7 wins, 15 losses, 0-1, 4-3 isn't really too bad, 1-5, 5-3, 4-3, 0-2, 0-1, 0-1, and 0-1. He really has not faced an opponent like Khasan Magomedsharipov. The one time he really got a step up in competition here against Felipe Maia, he got submitted in the very first round. This is an even bigger step up in competition. Fighting a guy like Khasan Magomedsharipov, the brother of Zabit Magomedsharipov, a top 5 featherweight fighter in the world, in my opinion. Khasan's going to go out there and destroy him in the wrestling and grappling. Yeah, he also hasn't really faced the best competition. 3-2, 8-4, 1-1, 2-1, 1-1. Not really the best competition, but he is starting his career as well. I think neither guy has really been tested in their careers too much. They haven't really fought the best competition, but Khasan Magomedsharipov, he's going to be a future champion here in Bellator, in my opinion. From Makhachkala, Dagestan, is a very good wrestler, very good grappler, solid ground and pound and submission skills. Very obvious that you guys already know who I'm going to go for. Khasan Magomedsharipov by, I'm going to go submission in the first or second round. Solid fight there in the featherweight division. Ciaran Clarke and Abou Tounkara in the featherweight division. Ciaran Clarke, very solid wrestler and grappler. Abou Tounkara, I'm going to say it right now, Bellator is trying to feed this guy. You look at a guy like Abou Tounkara, I've watched a little bit of film on the guy, but the one thing you really notice is he's been knocked out in both of his losses that he's had in the last couple of years, getting knocked out due to a knee injury against David to Nath Kroll, and then he got knocked out pretty badly against Saba Balahi. The only reason Bellator likes to bring in guys coming off knockout losses like that is to build their undefeated uprising prospects. Ciaran Clarke is that undefeated guy in the Bellator featherweight division. Abou Tounkara has been finished twice, so you already know Bellator wants Ciaran Clarke to win. They think he can go out there and finish a guy that gets finished in all of his losses. So that alone right there should lead you to believe that Ciaran Clarke is going to win the fight. But even if you look at the skill by skill basis, the striking is very, very even. The height, the reach, very even. The speed, the power is all very, very even. Neither guy is really that exceptional in terms of the striking here, so I really don't know who to give the advantage on the feet, because it's really, really that close. Neither guy is really that good of a striker, but where the advantage really, really does lie is going to be with the grappling and wrestling. We've seen Ciaran Clarke go out there and just destroy people on the ground. Go out there, submit George Courtney, submit Jordan Barton, and then get decision wins on Jamie Falding, as well as Gene Doyle. Gene Doyle was a pretty solid win, as he was undefeated at the time that he fought. So those are all very, very solid wins. He's fighting a guy, I would say, gets finished a lot in his fights. Ciaran Clarke gets a finish every now and then as well. So I think Bellator knows what they're doing. They're trying to feed Abou Tounkara to build that record of Ciaran Clarke, get him another finish. So of course, my prediction here, Ciaran Clarke gonna take the fight down and either TKO or submit Abou Tounkara in the first or second round. Solid fight there in the featherweight division. Leah McCourt and Sinead Kavanagh in the featherweight division. Leah McCourt, her resume speaks for itself. I mean, we could look at the height, we could look at the reach. She will be having a 2-inch height advantage and a 4-inch reach advantage. I also believe she's probably going to have that age advantage as well. But if you look at the resume from Leah, the Curse McCourt, she's beaten some really legit girls. Mana Fiorot by a split decision. If you really dig deep into watching that fight, I watched that fight many times. Doing tape study for Mana Fiorot because she is fighting in the UFC. I do believe Mana Fiorot won the fight very slightly, but even though I think Mana Fiorot won that fight, to have such a close fight with Mana Fiorot, one of the rising contenders in the UFC flyweight division, that alone gives your stock a really big boost. And not only that, she got first round TKO win, rear naked choke submission win, decision Judith Ruiz, submitted Janae Harding, and then got another unanimous decision. She's doing very good inside of Bellator with a 5-0 undefeated record. She is fighting, I would say, her biggest test in Bellator. Outside of Bellator, Mana Fiorot was her biggest test, and she did actually win that fight. But this fight here with of course Sinead Kavanagh, Sinead needs to go out there heavy pressure and just start to throw. She will be the bigger opponent in my opinion. I don't necessarily think that Leah McCourt built into that featherweight frame too nicely. I would say she's more of a natural bantamweight contender here. Sinead is going to be bigger. She's going to be a lot more powerful when it comes to how much power she's landing with her punches. But overall, Leah McCourt will have the height advantage. She will have the reach advantage, and I do believe will have the volume advantage on the field with jabs, 1-2s, kicks at range, and things of that nature. Now, overall, if the fight stays in the feet for 3 straight rounds, even though Leah McCourt has the volume, she has the height, she has the reach, Sinead's still going to be able to pressure, land those big shots, and win the fight. So she needs another avenue besides the striking to win this fight against Sinead Kavanagh, and of course, that is going to be the grappling and the wrestling avenue. We've seen it before, her getting submission wins on Carrie Hughes and Janae Harding. She does have, I would say, decent wrestling and grappling, even her amateur career back in 2015 and 2016. Armbar Kimura, armbar again, and a TKO win. So her grappling and wrestling is pretty underrated in my opinion, but I do believe she will have a significant advantage over Sinead Kavanagh in that wrestling and grappling. She'll be able to mix the striking in, make it very even on the feet, stay away from those big shots, and as Sinead Kavanagh's throwing those very big shots, trying to look for a finish on Leah McCourt, because that would be the main way she wins. That's when Leah McCourt's going to mix in that double leg takedown, or maybe get that fight to the clinch and look for a trip takedown, a single leg takedown, or something of that nature. So I do believe Leah McCourt will be able to take the fight down. I don't think she's going to TKO Sinead Kavanagh. The only girl that's really able to actually knock her out was Cris Cyborg, and Leah McCourt is no Cris Cyborg. So yeah, my prediction here in the featherweight division, Leah McCourt by unanimous decision. Gegard Mousasi and Austin Vandeford in the middleweight division. Gegard Mousasi, one of the greatest middleweights of all time, and I am not exaggerating. This man has beaten some amazing fighters. He's been fighting MMA since 2003. It is absolutely insane. The time where he first joined I would say major MMA promotion was in 2008. He already had a 20 wins, 2 losses, and 1 loss on his MMA record. Joined M1 Challenge, first on knockout, first on submission, decision win, submission win, knockout win, submission, knockout. So many finishes in a row, and then after that, he starts to find a little bit better competition. Fedor Emelianenko, Gary Goodridge, Muhammad Lawal, Keith Jardine, Ovi St. Preux, Alir Latifi, all these guys. Then he joins the UFC in 2013, beats Alir Latifi, who, if you don't know, is a heavyweight fighter. He, right now, in the heavyweight division, I would say is about top 25 in the UFC heavyweight division. And Gegard Mousasi, a middleweight fighter, went up as a -1,000 favorite in the main event. went out there and decisioned him. I mean, that is absolutely insane. Just that alone, that's very, very impressive. But not only that, he did go out there and beat guys like Mark Munoz, Dan Henderson by knockout, Tyler's latest, Thiago Santos by knockout, Vitor Belfort by knockout, Uriah Hall by knockout, Chris Weidman by knockout, and all of that should have been able for him to actually get a title shot in the UFC. He beat Chris Weidman, who at the time was 13-2, and it just lost to Yoel Romero and Luke Rocco. So at that point, Gegard Mousasi deserved a UFC title shot, and I'm gonna be honest, he would have beaten Luke Rocco. Gegard Mousasi was in the fighting spirit and the shape to actually go out there and be the UFC champion, but instead he goes on to Bellator and beats Alexander Shlemenko, Rafael Carvalho, Rory McDonald, Lyoto Machida, Douglas Lima, and John Salter, only losing to one of the greatest grapplers of all time in Rafael Lovato Jr. And in this video, we haven't really talked much about Austin Vanderford, but the reason is the only way that Gegard Mousasi is going to lose this fight is if Austin Vanderford can keep the pace with the wrestling and grappling for as long as Rafael Lovato Jr. was able to. Rafael's grappling and wrestling, I would say the grappling is a little bit better. Vanderford's wrestling is still a little bit better. The cardio goes Rafael, but him losing to Rafael Lovato Jr. is not the same as a fight with Austin Vanderford. Yeah, Austin is a very good wrestler, but he has not been in 5-round main event fights. I think Austin Vanderford's gas tank is really going to suffer in those later rounds. We've seen Gegard Mousasi do it to John Salter, where he kind of allowed John Salter to land a few takedowns, kind of use his gas tank a little bit in the first round and a little bit in the second round, and then come back where that wrestler and grappler is a little bit gassed and TKO them in the later rounds. That's exactly what I see happening here. The only reason he wasn't able to do that on Rafael Lovato Jr. is because Rafael is one of the greatest grapplers of all time. He has very, very solid cardio as well, grappling and wrestling all day, every day. So I don't think Austin Vanderford is going to be able to withstand 5 full rounds of action with Gegard Mousasi with the wrestling and grappling. It's possible, but Gegard's takedown defense is really good. His get-up game is really good. And after the fight hits the 3rd, 4th, and 5th round, Gegard is going to absolutely destroy him. I don't think the fight goes all the way. I do believe Gegard Mousasi is going to get the TKO win. I'm going to go 3rd round here. I think Austin will do enough to survive the 1st and 2nd round, maybe even win the 1st and 2nd round, but after that, his gas tank's really going to suffer, and Gegard is going to come back like usual, and he's going to TKO the gassed Austin Vanderford. So in the middleweight division for the Bellator middleweight strap, I got Gegard Mousasi defending for 4 times in a row and beating Austin Vanderford by knockout in the 3rd round right here. And one guy in the comment section is saying, I don't think Austin is going to get gassed. He's never been in a 5-round main event. I'm not saying based on prior knowledge, like I've seen Austin Vanderford get gassed in any of his other fights. All I'm saying, he has never been in 5-round fights. He's never been in a fight with a guy like Gegard Mousasi, who will have the best takedown defense that Austin Vanderford has ever seen. Fabian Edwards, Vinci De Jesus, Graca Mazzina, all of these guys have decent takedown defense. This guy right here, Gegard Mousasi, has way better takedown defense, and the better your takedown defense is, the more gas the person going for the takedown is going to get. Plus the fact that it is 5 rounds, so I think Gegard is going to defend a lot of these takedowns, wear on that gas tank, and he's going to TKO him in the 3rd round right there. Really good fight in the middleweight division. But yeah, guys, that is my full card prediction for Bellator 275. Mousasi versus Vanderford. 13 fights on the entire card. I got Lee Hammond winning. I got Nathan Kelly winning. I got Gokhan Saricam winning. Vladimir Tokov winning. Darragh Kelly. Danny McCormack. I got Charlie Leary winning. I got Brett Johns. I got Jornel Lugo. Khasan Magomedsharipov. Ciaran Clarke. Leah McCourt. And Gegard Mousasi. My 2 underdog picks are going to be Leah McCourt as well as Charlie Leary. In terms of the underdogs, I think have a very, very good shot of an upset. They would be Scott Pederson, Daniel Scatizzi, and then think that's about it. I think those, besides the ones I mentioned earlier with Leah McCourt, as well as Charlie Leary, is Charlie Leary, Daniele, and Scott Pederson. Those are the underdogs I think have very, very good shots of winning. But those are my full card predictions. If you guys liked the video, hit the like button. We're trying to get this video to 100 likes. It would be absolutely amazing if we can get it there. Make sure to hit the subscribe button and turn on them notifications. With all that being said, we'll see you in the next video. Let's go.